Greetings from Sweden and welcome to Everyday Mystic, an aid to your spiritual growth. My name is David, and today I'm going to try and make the incomprehensible comprehensible. I'm going to try and put into words that which defies description. Namely, I'm going to talk about how God lives in the present moment. What do I mean by this? Well, the present moment is the gateway to eternity. The present moment is the gateway to heaven on earth, if you will. The first thing to observe is that time can never be divided enough so that you get to the present moment by dividing it. And this is one of the keys to how the present moment is the gateway to eternity. The present moment exists outside of linear time. And I'm going to try and explain this in a few different ways. First of all, we can start observing how our minds operate. We are usually occupied either with past regrets or worries about the future. We may think about what someone else thinks about something we did in the past, or we worry that something negative is going to happen in the future. And this, of course, is especially true in the times that we are living in. But for the careful observer, there are also other signs. You can see that when you are completely aware in the present moment, the usual chatter in your mind stops. But not only that. That chattering, noisy voice inside of your head changes its character. It's no longer these repetitive thoughts that just loop over and over again, that you have gotten so used to that you usually don't even notice that they are there. Instead, you're starting to hear a different voice. A more clear voice. A voice that doesn't really seem to come from yourself anymore. At least not from your normal ego self. And I'm pretty confident that this is the voice of the Holy Spirit, which, apart from being a being in itself, also is your direct channel to God. But there is more to this. And when you are anchored in the present moment, apart from this, you will also start to feel more and more how you are connected to everything else and connected to a larger mind, a larger consciousness that is infinitely bigger than your little ego self. And on a fundamental level, you are one with this consciousness. And this is something that you will begin to experience when you get more and more anchored in the present moment. You will also notice how you surrender more and more to this larger consciousness. But your little ego mind cannot coexist with this consciousness. And this is what it means to surrender to God, actually. You no longer allow your little ego mind to be in control, which it isn't anyway. Instead, you allow God to come in and guide your actions in your life. You will see this both in how God takes over your movements, your workings in this world, if you will. But it's still you on some level that governs this. It's not like anything happens against your will. And this is how you see this fundamental oneness. But this is not as the Satanists put it, like this ego trip of becoming your own God. No, this is the exact opposite of that. You have to discard the ego completely if you want God to shine through you completely. And now let's move on and look at some other aspects of this. Because actually you can see this very clearly how this coincides with rather classical theology as well. And this is about being reborn as a new person, which is a central theme in Christianity. Being reborn means that you shake off the old identity and allow a new identity to take over you. The true identity. The identity which is truly made in the image of God. This is what it means to really be made in the image of God. And Jesus also said that ye are gods. So this is in line with Jesus' teachings. And you can also see this, that when you are really one with God on every level, nothing is impossible. With faith the size of a mustard seed, you will be able to move mountains. I believe this is meant to be taken in a very literal sense. Of course, we cannot experience and do this in our normal everyday consciousness, because in our normal everyday consciousness, our ego is in the way of our connection with God. So, where am I getting with this? Yeah. That when you are preoccupied with the past and not living in the present, you hold on to this old ego self-identity. You either do it by ruminating over your past mistakes, and this is what actually neuroplasticity is teaching us. That when we keep repeating the same memory over and over again in our head, we are actually reinforcing the neural pathways that are connected with the memory. So when we keep ruminating over past mistakes and the past bad actions that we made, past sins if you will, we keep reinforcing them inside of our heads. Or if we have done some disgraceful actions regarding sexuality are the ones that most easily come to mind. If we keep repeating them and maybe invoke our lusts when it comes to them, we also reinforce this in our minds. And this is one of the reasons why we need to bring our attention back to the present moment as soon as we see how our thoughts are going into past experiences. And also, as you know, forgiveness is a very central theme in Christianity. And we can keep telling ourselves that we've forgiven another person as much as we want. But if we continue to ruminate over perceived wrongdoings, we haven't really forgiven the person. But again, if we bring our attention back to the present moment and not allow the memories of these wrongdoings to occupy our minds, our neural pathways will again eventually wither away and die when it comes to the perceived wrongdoing. And now let's look at the future instead. And this will be a bit shorter, and there is just really one thing when it comes to this. And it is that our worries about the future really show that we don't trust God with our lives. We don't show that we believe that God is in control, that God is carrying us. Instead, again, we try to go in with our little ego mind and try to control things for ourselves instead of surrendering to God. And the thing is that it's next to impossible not to worry about the future when you're not anchored in the present moment. Because your mind, as soon as you go unconscious, will either go into the past or the future with its fearful chatter. But when you're anchored in the present moment, two things happen. One is that you get more and more confirmations that life is not just a series of random events that could go anywhere, but that there actually is a will and an intelligence behind what is happening in your life. God's will and intelligence. And another thing that also will happen is that you get more into contact with the Holy Spirit. And this means that you tap in more and more to divine guidance, which means that your thoughts will begin to shift. You will notice that instead of your little ego's normal thoughts, new thoughts enter your mind, thoughts about what you need to do in order to manage the situations that you are in. And Ultimately, I believe that this is a process of letting go and trusting God. And while on the outside things may seem more and more chaotic, you will also get more personal and more inner confirmations that this is leading somewhere, this is going somewhere, and you can trust. And I believe in the end that we need to let go and trust before we can totally see that we don't have anything to fear in life. And ultimately, we will have to do it whether we like it or not the day that we die. But it's much better if we can do that before this happens. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please leave a like, as that helps the video to get spread on YouTube. Leave a comment if you feel that you have something to say, and share the video on social media and other places. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. And check out the comment section and the description for other things that me and my wife are doing. And other than that, just sincerely thank you for your time.